My daughter called me in the middle of the night. Dad, I'm at the police station. My stepfather hit me, but now he's saying I attacked him and they believe him. When I reached the station, the officer on duty turned pale and stammered, "Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't realize." Before we go on, share in the comments which country you're from and how old you are. Now, let's continue. The call came at 3:17 a.m. on a Thursday in late October, the kind of night when the air feels sharp enough to slice through glass, and the moon hangs low like a warning. I was already half awake, the way parents become when their children no longer live under their roof. Every sound in the house could be a footstep or a heartbeat. The ringtone was Emily's favorite pop song, Sunflower Skies by Nova Ray, slowed to a soft piano version she'd set years ago, back when she was 15 and believed the world would end if her playlist wasn't perfect. My hand found the phone in the dark, thumb swiping. Before my eyes adjusted to the light of the screen, the name glowed, Emmy Bear. "Dad," she whispered, her voice trembling like a leaf caught in a storm. Behind her words, I could hear the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. "I'm at the police station. My stepfather hit me, but he's telling them I attacked him. They believe him." Her words felt like ice water pouring through my veins. I was already pulling on my jeans, phone pressed to my ear with my shoulder. "Stay calm, Em. I'm on my way. Don't say another word until I get there. Understand?" I tried to fight back, she said, her voice breaking. "But he's bigger. The officers, they looked at me like I was the problem." A sob escaped her, raw and shaky. "There's blood on my hoodie, Dad. Please hurry." The line went dead. I stared at the screen. 3:19. My truck roared to life before the door even shut. The drive to the Midtown precinct took 23 minutes through empty streets, though every red light felt like an insult. Every shadow on the road mocked me. Richard! Of course, it was him. Lisa's husband of 4 years. The man who swept in with smooth words, expensive watches, and a laugh that never reached his eyes. He'd once told me Emily was just acting out when she came home with a C in algebra. I'd wanted to believe Lisa when she said he was good for them, that he made her happy. I told myself my daughter had a stable home, while I worked double shifts at the security firm, chasing the idea that retirement meant peace. I couldn't have been more wrong. The harsh fluorescent glow of the police station spilled onto the wet pavement like a reversed crime scene. Bright, cold, unforgiving. I'd parked across 2 spaces. Didn't care. Inside, the air smelled like burnt coffee, bleach, and something metallic underneath. Blood, fear, maybe both. Sergeant Mallory looked up from the desk, recognized me. "Harlan," she said softly. "Retired detective, badge 4729, still in the system." She waved me through without a word, her eyes flicking toward the holding area with quiet pity. Emily sat on a metal bench in the corner, knees pulled to her chest. One wrist was cuffed to the rail with a plastic zip tie that had already left red lines in her skin. A bruise, dark purple and spreading like spilled ink, covered her cheekbone and temple. Her right eye was swollen shut, the lid shiny and puffy. Dried blood crusted above her eyebrow in a jagged streak. She wore the oversized navy hoodie she'd stolen from my closet last summer.
the one with property of Dad fading across the chest. It was torn at the sleeve, the collar stained dark. When she saw me, her face crumpled. She tried to stand, but the cuff yanked her back. Across the room stood Richard Lang, 6'2", broad-shouldered, hair styled to look carelessly perfect. The kind of man who practiced victimhood in a mirror. His lower lip was split, a thin line of dried blood marking the corner, and a shallow scratch ran along his jaw. He leaned against the counter, arms folded, wearing the same half-smirk he'd given me at our last family barbecue, when he'd told Emily to smile more, because pretty girls shouldn't scowl. He wore a tailored charcoal coat over a white shirt, now spattered with what might have been her blood. Or his. Hard to tell under the harsh lights. A young officer stepped toward me, badge reading J. Carter, early 20s, fresh-faced, Adam's apple bobbing nervously. His expression drained of color when he saw me. He fumbled with his clipboard, nearly dropping it, papers scattering like startled birds. "Mr. Harlan," he stammered, voice cracking. "From here to the county line, friends who owed me favors older than this kid was." Carter led me past the desk toward a side office, boots squeaking on the linoleum. Richard straightened, smirk faltering for a second before snapping back. Emily lifted her head, eyes wide with a mix of hope and fear. Hope that I could fix this, fear that I couldn't. Another officer, Ramirez, stood nearby, arms crossed. I recognized her from the academy. Sharp eyes, tight braid, no nonsense. She watched Richard like he was already a suspect. "Cut the zip tie," I said quietly, my voice flat enough to cut steel. Carter hesitated, glancing toward his sergeant. "Sir, there's protocol." Ramirez stepped forward, pulled a small blade from her belt, and sliced the plastic in one motion. Emily rubbed her wrist, red welts circling her skin like a bracelet of fire, then ran straight into my arms. Her body trembled, shoulders, hands, knees. I held her back, just enough to check every mark under the light. Finger-shaped bruises ringed her arms, deep enough to look permanent. The cut above her eyebrow had started to crust, but blood still seeped at the edge. Her lip was split in 2 places. She smelled of fear, copper, and that faint vanilla body spray she'd worn since middle school. Richard cleared his throat, his voice smooth as oil on broken glass. "She came at me with a kitchen knife, Harlan. I was defending myself. Look at my face. Look at my arms. She scratched me deep enough to scar." Emily's voice cracked like thin ice. "He grabbed my hair, Dad. Slammed my face into the marble counter 3 times. I never touched a knife. I was trying to reach the door." Carter's gaze flicked between us, sweat beading on his forehead, despite the humming air conditioner. He pulled me aside into a narrow hallway that smelled of mildew and old paperwork. Lowering his voice to a whisper, "Mr. Harlan, your daughter's phone recorded the entire—" We listened. It doesn't match Mr. Lang's statement. Not even close. Richard's jaw twitched. That could be fake, edited. These kids use AI apps, did fakes. Carter ignored him, eyes shifting toward the one-way glass, where Ramirez stood guard. "There's more," he said. "The 911 call. Your daughter made it at 11:47 p.m.
You can hear her say, "He's hurting me. Please hurry. He won't stop." Then a crash, a scream, and the line cuts. We have the timestamp. Lang claimed she dialed by accident while attacking him. Said she was hysterical. I looked at Richard. The smirk was gone, replaced by cold calculation, the look of a man revising his odds. Carter leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. When we ran background, Lang's priors showed up. 3 domestic complaints across 2 states, sealed juvenile records, but still there if you know where to look. One case involved a girlfriend who dropped charges after he apologized. You're the detective who put his brother away 15 years ago. Armed robbery, corner gas station. Tommy Lang. He swore revenge in court, said he'd make you pay. The whole way tilted. I remembered the case like it was burned into film. Tommy Lang, 22, wild-eyed, pistol whipping a clerk for $43 and a pack of cigarettes. I'd testified 3 hours straight, walking the jury through every frame of the tape. Tommy got 25 years. Richard had been 17 then, sitting in the gallery, glaring at me, and now he was standing here. Carter wasn't done. He held up his tablet and swiped to a still image. Security cam from the apartment hallway, Building C, 3rd floor, shows Lang dragging your daughter inside at 11:42 p.m., no knife in her hand. She's struggling, trying to pull away. Then the lights go out. 43 seconds later, she stumbles out alone, bleeding, hoodie half off. Calling 911 from the payphone downstairs. The super confirmed it, Carter said. He tested the payphone himself at 11:50, right after hearing the sirens. Emily buried her face in my shoulder. I thought no one would believe me, she whispered. Mom's on that business trip in Denver. He said he'd tell everyone I was crazy. Just like he told her when I talked about the yelling or how he'd grab my wrist. He said if I told anyone, he'd make sure I ended up in foster care. Richard shifted, coat rustling. Ramirez blocked the door, hand near her holster. Carter turned toward him, voice steady now. Richard Lang, you're under arrest for 2nd-degree assault, filing a false report, witness intimidation, and destruction of evidence. Richard lunged, not at the officers, but at Emily, with a guttural roar. 22 years of training kicked in. I intercepted him, driving his shoulder into the wall with a thud that echoed like a gunshot. His head snapped back, eyes dazed. Handcuffs clicked shut. Steel this time, not plastic. Ramirez read him his rights in a calm, damn it, click tone as he spat curses at the floor, at me, at fate itself as they led him away. He shouted, "This isn't over, Harlan. You'll see, I'll bury you." Carter removed his hat, cheeks flushed with shame. "Sir, I owe you and your daughter an apology." I took his story at face value. A wealthy man with a split lip versus a scared teen in a hoodie. I wrote it up as possible self-defense. I was wrong. I've already called the watch commander. We're opening a review, and I'm volunteering for retraining. Emily's hand gripped mine tight, nails digging crescents into my skin. "Can we go home?" she whispered. "Not yet," I said softly. "Hospital first. Photos, statements, everything. We do this right, Em. Every bruise, every cut. We make it count." The hospital smelled of antiseptic and sleeplessness, the kind of place where the walls hum with quiet suffering. Emily sat on the examination table, hoodie folded neatly beside her, wearing one of those thin paper gowns that never quite close right. In the back, her hair once soft and sun-bleached, hung damp and tangled around her face. The attending nurse, an older woman with kind eyes and a silver badge reading M. Lawson, RN, took photos of every bruise, every cut, her gloved hands steady. Each click of the camera sounded like a gavel hitting wood. "Hold still, sweetheart," Lawson murmured, brushing a strand of hair from Emily's forehead. "We'll get all this documented for you." Emily flinched when the cold alcohol pad touched her skin. I turned away, jaw tight. I'd seen gunshot wounds, autopsies, bodies broken in alleys, but nothing compared to watching my daughter sit under that harsh light, trying not to cry. A uniformed officer entered. Ramirez again, still on duty. She carried a clipboard and a small digital recorder. "We'll need to take her statement while everything's fresh," she said quietly. "And yours too, sir." Emily's voice was barely audible. "Do I have to do it now?" Ramirez nodded gently. "Unfortunately, yes. But I'll be with you the whole time. You're not alone in this anymore." Emily looked at me, and I gave her a small nod. "Go ahead, Em, tell the truth, every detail." She began haltingly, voice trembling at first, then steadying as she spoke. "I was in my room. He came in angry about the laundry, said I left his shirts in the dryer too long. I told him Mom said she'd do it when she got home. He called me ungrateful. I tried to walk past him, but he blocked the door. He grabbed my wrist and wouldn't let go. I told him to stop. He shoved me into the counter, then I hit my head, and everything went blurry. I remember him saying, 'You think your daddy can save you now?'" She paused, breathing uneven. "I called 911 when he went for his phone. I hid it under the blanket and whispered. He said Mom wouldn't believe me, that he'd tell her I was drinking again. I don't drink." I clenched my fist so hard my knuckles cracked. When she finished, Ramirez turned to me. "We've got enough for the DA. The audio, the call, her injuries. It's airtight." She hesitated. "But you know how these cases go. His lawyer will play the family angle, the stepfather narrative. He'll claim mutual aggression. Then we make sure the evidence screams louder than his lies," I said. Ramirez gave a small nod, her respect quiet but visible. "Understood." After she left, the nurse returned with discharge forms. Emily's injuries were classified as moderate trauma. No fractures, but multiple contusions and a mild concussion. She'd need rest, observation, and therapy. The word therapy landed like a weight neither of us wanted to name. As we walked out, dawn was bleeding into the horizon, pale pinks and grays like the world was trying to apologize for the night. The parking lot shimmered with dew, and my truck waited under the single flickering light. Emily leaned against the passenger door, exhausted. "What happens now?" "Now," I said, unlocking it. "We go home. My home." She hesitated. "What about Mom?" I paused before starting the engine. "She'll find out soon enough. I'll handle her." The drive was silent, except for the hum of tires and the occasional sigh from Emily as she tried to stay awake. I caught her reflection in the window, small, fragile, but still there. Still my girl. When we pulled into my driveway, the sky had turned a pale gold. I helped her inside, guided her to the guest room. Clean sheets, soft blankets, the faint smell of cedar and old books. She sat on the edge of the bed, fingers tracing the quilt I'd had since before she was born. "I don't remember this room. It used to be yours," I said, "before everything changed." Her eyes saw. "Can I keep the light on tonight?" Of course. When she finally fell asleep, I stood in the doorway, watching the slow rise and fall of her breathing. The bruise on her cheek caught the light, an ugly reminder that safety is sometimes just a word people say to make themselves feel better. I went to the kitchen, poured coffee that had gone cold hours ago, and stared out the window. The street was waking up. Paperboy on his bike, a neighbor walking her dog. The way they always do when they don't know who to believe yet. I didn't tell Emily she was asleep, still pale under the thin blanket. I left her bedroom door half open so I could hear if she stirred. At 6:43 p.m., Lisa's car screeched into my driveway. She didn't knock, just stormed in like she still owned the place. Same perfume, same restless energy, same disbelief flashing in her eyes as she spotted me. "What the hell did you do, Harlan?" she demanded, dropping her purse on the floor. "The police said you were involved in Richard's arrest." I stayed seated at the kitchen table, mug in my hands. "Your husband is in custody for assaulting our daughter." "That's what I did." She froze. "That's not possible. Richard called me before his lawyer took his phone. He said Emily attacked him." I set the mug down gently. "Then you'd better hear the recording before you embarrass yourself further." I slid my phone across the table and hit play. The audio filled the kitchen. Emily's muffle pleading, the crash of something heavy, a man's voice snarling words I'll never forget. "You think anyone will believe a brat like you?" When it ended, the silence that followed felt like a living thing. Lisa's hand trembled as she covered her mouth. That's not, she couldn't finish." I spoke softly, but my voice was iron. "He didn't just lose his temper, Lisa. He meant it." Her shoulders sagged, the fight draining out of her. She sank into the chair opposite me, eyes fixed on nothing. "How long?" You'd have to ask Emily that. But the bruises aren't new. The neighbors heard yelling before. You just didn't want to see it. She looked up sharply, guilt cutting through her shock. "You think I chose this? I wanted stability. After everything with us, after you walked away, I thought he was better for her." "I didn't walk away," I said. "You asked for space, remember? You said I was too hard on her, that she needed a softer hand. I gave you that space. Turns out, the softer hand was the one that left marks." Tears filled her eyes, but I didn't move to comfort her. Not yet. Finally, she whispered, "Can I see her?" I nodded toward the hallway. "She's resting. Keep your voice down." Lisa hesitated in the doorway, hand pressed to the frame like she needed it to stay upright. She stared at Emily's sleeping face, the bruised skin, the fading swelling, and broke into quiet sobs. When she turned back to me, her voice was small. "What happens now? She stays with me," I said. "At least until the case is done. Maybe longer. She's safe here." Lisa didn't argue. Maybe she couldn't. For a long time we sat in silence, the hum of the refrigerator filling the space between us. Eventually, she said, "His lawyer called. They're claiming he acted in self-defense, that Emily was emotionally unstable. They're already spinning it." "Of course they are," I muttered. "That's what men like him do. Rewrite the story until they're the victim." Lisa looked at me. Eyes red but steady. "He said something else before they took him away." "What?" She swallowed. "He said this wasn't about Emily, that it was about you." I leaned back slowly. "He's right." Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "His brother, Tommy Lang. I arrested him 15 years ago for armed robbery. He swore revenge in court. Richard was there. He watched it all." Lisa's eyes widened.
realization dawning like a slow dawn over wreckage.
You think this was planned? I think he married you to get to me, I said. And when he couldn't, he went after the one person who'd break me faster than a bullet could.
Lisa covered her mouth again, this time to stifle a sob. God, Harlan. I stood, walked to the counter, poured another cup of coffee, hands steady, voice low. The police have enough to keep him locked up for a while. But men like that always have a way of reaching out from behind bars. We'll need to be careful. Lisa nodded weakly. I'll call my lawyer. File for divorce.
I can't, her voice broke. I can't believe I didn't see it.
You saw what you wanted to, I said gently. We all do.
As night settled again, I checked the locks twice, then sat by the window with my gun on the table beside me.
Unloaded, but there. Old habits die hard.
Outside, a car idled for a few seconds too long before pulling away.
The sound crawled under my skin. I made a note to call Ramirez in the morning. The next morning came too quietly.
Emily was still asleep when I left to get groceries and pick up her medication. I kept one hand on my phone the whole time, waiting for Ramirez's update. By noon, the sky had gone from blue to the color of old steel. Storm rolling in.
At 1:23 p.m., Ramirez called. Her voice was clipped, professional, but I could hear the tension underneath.
Lang made bail, she said. I stopped in the parking lot, heart hammering. What? Judge signed it an hour ago. 50,000 bond, posted by an unknown party. Cash. He's out. I stared at
the grocery bags heavy in my hands.
He shouldn't have been eligible for bail.
He's a repeat offender. Technically, not convicted of prior charges, Ramirez replied. His lawyer argued the evidence was circumstantial.
The DA's appealing the decision, but it'll take time. How much time? Too much. I drove home faster than I should have, eyes darting between mirrors, every shadow in the rearview feeling too close.
When I walked in,
Emily was sitting on the couch with a blanket around her shoulders,
watching an old cartoon on mute.
She looked up and smiled faintly. Hey, you were gone a while.
I forced a smile.
Just errands. Thought you could use some soup. She nodded, eyes drifting back to the screen,
unaware of the storm about to hit. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. A text. You took everything from me. Now I take it back. No signature, no need for one. Lisa arrived 20 minutes later.
The police said he can't come near us, she said, clutching her coat.
There's a restraining order.
I nodded.
Restraining orders are paper. He's a man who breaks things, including rules. We double-checked the locks again. I installed a motion sensor camera above the porch and another by the back fence. Then I retrieved the old service weapon from the safe, unloaded, and kept it within reach, not for use, but for comfort. By sunset, thunder grumbled over the hills. Power flickered twice before settling.
Emily ate half a bowl of soup and went to bed early, leaving the TV on low in her room. Lisa sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone with shaking hands.
I can't believe this is my life, she whispered. A week ago, I was planning an open house. Now I'm hiding from my husband. Ex-husband, I corrected. Lightning flashed, briefly illuminating the window. For a moment, I thought I saw movement outside, just a shadow near the tree line. But when I looked again, it was.
Still, I turned off the kitchen light and moved to the window,
eyes adjusting to the dark. A car sat parked across the street, engine off, headlights cold. Lisa followed my gaze. You think, don't move, I said quietly. I watched for a full minute. No movement, no sound, but something in my gut twisted. The old instinct that had saved me more than once on the job. Finally, I exhaled and picked up the phone. Ramirez, I said when she answered. I think he's outside. She didn't ask questions. Units are on the way. Stay inside. Keep the lights off. I locked the door, drew the curtains, and motioned for Lisa to move away from the windows. Emily's door was closed, her soft breathing steady beyond it. We waited. Rain began to fall, slow, deliberate drops that grew into a steady downpour. The sound masked everything else. Then, faintly, something else. A metallic clink near the back door. Lisa froze. What was that? I raised a finger to my lips and moved silently toward the K.
Another sound followed. Footsteps, careful ones, moving across the porch. I grabbed the flashlight, clicked it on, and swung the beam toward the glass. For a split second, I saw him, Richard, standing in the rain, soaked to the bone, eyes wild. His shirt clung to him, blood staining the collar where a scab had torn open. He wasn't alone. Behind him stood a man I recognized instantly, despite the years. Tommy Lang, out early, probably on parole or worse. His smile was a mirror of his brother's, cold, cruel, rehearsed. Lisa gasped softly behind me. Richard raised a hand, palm open, mock peace gesture. His lips moved, but the sound was lost in the rain. Then he mouthed two words I didn't need to hear to understand. Your turn. I turned off the light and backed away. They're here, I whispered into the phone. Ramirez's voice came through, urgent. Stay put. Units are 2 minutes out. 2 minutes. In a lifetime, that's nothing. But in fear, it's forever. Glass rained across the counter. Lisa screamed. I grabbed her arm, pulled her behind the couch. Emily's door opened down the hall. Dad? She cried. Stay in your room, I shouted. Another crash. The front door this time. Heavy footsteps on tile. Then sirens, distant but growing, a promise of help. I held my breath. Every second stretched. A flashlight beam swept across the room from outside. Voices shouting commands. Then a single gunshot split the air. Not from inside. From the yard. Silence followed. Heavy and absolute. Then Ramirez's voice. Police, you're clear. I exhaled so hard my chest ached. When I stepped outside, rain slicked the pavement. Richard lay face down, wrists cuffed behind him, blood pooling from a graze along his arm. Tommy was on his knees beside him, shouting curses into the storm. Ramirez stood over them, soaked but steady, her pistol still drawn. Told you to stay put, she said, glancing at me. I managed a faint, weary smile. Good timing, Shiho. You've got one hell of a family, Harlan. I looked back at the house. Lisa trembling by the door. Emily clutching her blanket, eyes wide. Yeah, I said quietly. I know. Morning came slow, gray and heavy. The house smelled faintly of rain and bleach. Ramirez's team had been through hours earlier, collecting evidence, snapping photos, cataloging the shattered glass. Emily was curled up on the couch under a blanket, the TV playing quietly, though she wasn't really watching. Lisa sat beside her, eyes swollen from crying, coffee untouched on the table. Outside, the patrol cars were gone, replaced by the quiet hum of a neighborhood pretending it hadn't seen flashing lights at 3 a.m. I stood at the window, arms crossed, watching the street. Every creak of the floorboards made me flinch. It would take a long time for that to fade. Ramirez stopped by around 9. Her uniform was dry now, hair tied back, eyes as sharp as ever. She stepped inside, notebook in hand. "They're both in C," she said. "Lang and his brother. The DA is pushing for no bail this time. Multiple felonies, violation of a restraining order, breaking and entering, conspiracy. It's solid." "Good," I said quietly. She hesitated, then softened her tone. "You did everything right, Harlan. You protected your daughter. That's what matters." I nodded, but it didn't feel like victory. Just survival. After she left, Emily looked up at me, her voice small. "Is it over?" I sat beside her. "Almost, kiddo. He won't hurt you again." She studied my face for a moment, then whispered, "You're shaking." I looked down at my hands, steady in sight, trembling underneath. Old habit, takes a while to turn it off. She leaned against my shoulder. "Thank you for coming for me." "Always," I said. "That's what dads do." The next few days blurred together. Paperwork, court calls, insurance claims, therapy appointments. The kind of mundane aftermath that follows chaos. Lisa stayed at my house for a while. Pump! She and Emily started to talk again. Not easily, not perfectly, but honestly. Sometimes honesty hurts worse than silence, but it heals better. One evening, I found Lisa on the porch, watching the sunset. She didn't look like the woman who had walked into my kitchen days ago demanding answers. She looked smaller, humbler, human. "I filed the divorce papers," she said quietly. And I told Emily I believe her. That's all she needed to hear. I nodded. Good. She hesitated. "Do you think she'll ever forgive me?" "Eventually," I said. "But forgiveness isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It's about surviving it together." Lisa gave a small, tired smile. "You always were better with words." "Only when they come too late," I said. That night, Emily asked if she could sleep with her door open again. A small thing, but it meant something. When the house finally went still, I sat alone in the living room. Before everything fractured. I'd meant to throw it away, but something stopped me. Maybe because it reminded me that even broken things can still tell a story. The clock ticked past midnight. The house was quiet. Outside, the rain had stopped. I walked to Emily's doorway, watched her sleeping, one arm hanging over the edge of the bed like she used to when she was little. Her breathing was steady, peaceful for the first time in days. I turned off the hall light, whispering the words I hadn't said in years. "Good night, Emmy Bear." She stirred slightly, smiled in her sleep, and for the first time in a long while, the world felt almost safe again.